What you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. So we have to be one in this effort. We don't have time to waste. There are people who are across this country who are hurting and looking for the true faith.
Thank you once again, and welcome to the Black American Experience in the Orthodox Church. I'm so godly proud to introduce our next guest today. 4 years ago, a young man reached out to me and asked if he could interview me about the process of urban missions and what it looked like today in America. Since then, I've been able to see this young man grow and mature in his vocation as a priest. Father Micah Breland is now in his final semester at St. Tikhon's Theological Orthodox Seminary. Father Micah today stands on the shoulders of great clergy like Deacon Michael Bishop and Father Moses Berry of blessed memory. Today, I'm so happy to introduce to our viewers and our family and friends here at the OCN, Father Michael Breland. Father Michael, welcome this afternoon. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Father Samuel. Of course, it's always been a pleasure with you. You've been a blessing to me and my family. And thank you for the rest of the viewers for tuning in and listening. And prayerfully, hopefully we can, glorify God in this interaction and that, he gets the glory. So thank God.
All right, Father. Thank you so much again. Father Mike, as I just shared, you're now in your final semester at St. Tikhon's. Could you please share with our viewers what was your experience like as a seminarian at St. Tikhon's?
We used to say growing up in kind of the Black church tradition, new levels, new devils. And I think anytime you answer the call of the Lord, you're gonna have something challenging. And there's no exception at seminary, where someone is being formed to be the spiritual leader or father of a community, or of his fellow brethren, or somebody that maybe he even grew up around. And so any of those types of calls and moves towards growing in the faith in that sense is going to take a struggle. There's going to be trials and tribulations, but I think you put yourself maybe, so to say, even more in harm's way as to to choose to be a leader and a priest in a parish. But I knew that I could not deny the call and the burn that was there. That even when I was not Orthodox, the Lord had put on my heart. He had kind of watered that seed, if you will. And so to answer more specifically about seminary, it's had its challenges. Where when you come to a place for spiritual formation, all hell breaks loose, because the devil really is trying to steer the faithful young men and their families away from God. That's just the truth. And so, Father Sam, I know we've talked. You've even had your own. You were dealing with a lot of your own health issues at the time, and really just pulling through it. And some of those encouraging words helped me get through some of the same times here. But of course, in a positive sense, there is a lot of spiritual blessing there with the monastery. You have the seminary. You have a community of people who are living their lives trying their best to glorify God. And so, in that sense, it's beautiful. But in that same breath comes the challenges. I have my 3 kids with me. I have just a new daughter who's about almost 7 months old. She's a blessing, beautiful. And she just puts a smile on my face. Her name's Anastasia, which means resurrection. And so even in the death, right, as we were baptized into his death, so to speak, we also have new life. And, there's things full of life. Like God gives us children. God gives us these blessings, and, our wives and our children that help to bring us up, help to remind us of what God has truly done and what's really important in this whole thing. So St. Tikhon's has a lot of great professors and people. At times I wish, we could be a little bit more collegial with different seminaries and people around that are help bring me up. But all that to say, it's been a blessing. And I encourage all those who are wrestling or praying faithfully and earnestly about this, that they consult maybe their spiritual father or those in the faith they look to because there's much of a need in many places, not just not just here, but in all places. The Orthodox Church, we need you to step up and answer the call.
Thank you, Father Micah. This past summer, you completed your internship with Father Paul Abernathy and the Neighborhood Resilience Project. Could you please share with our viewers, what was that experience like and what did you gain from it after your internship?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say Father Paul has been a blessing to me as well, my family as well. I wanted to not let be gone that there are many, faithful priests and leaders in the church that are answering this call, and then secondarily, the call of the urban mission and either revitalization as well. Father Paul being one of these in the church men who have stepped up to this call. It was really incredible this summer in Pittsburgh, and especially inner city Pittsburgh, where there has been a lot of desolation. There's been a lot of gun violence and crime that has been the result of course, many traumas and plagues of that community. But us as the church have to then respond to be that healing arm, the healing feet, and the legs, so-called, of Christ. And so it was a blessing to see that, even Orthodox Church or not, that someone of the Christian faith was answering that call, and it has taken it took a lot of work. Took many years for him to get there. He's had many different partners, but I feel like he's coming, of course, into his own in the Neighborhood Resilience Project, where many people who he has helped bring up, whether in the faith or in the community, are now starting to become the leaders or the people that can now turn around someone else's life and also be that example. Just to give a few quick examples, they of course, in the communities such as that in inner city Pittsburgh in the Hill District, which is a historically African American community there, they have a lot of need, maybe food and or clothes, all these things. But on another level, they really take an investment in the community. They have a couple programs that they really go in depth with when it comes to health of a whole block. They go block by block, have a team that goes block by block over a whole year intervention. They have a team that responds to gun violence, trauma, and or violence in the community. They have a couple of community leaders on this team that people know and have a connection with. Of course, Father Paul it works with a lot of the other bigger community movers and shakers, so to speak, to where they can have as best they can, a concerted effort to bring people up, not just to bring them into the church just to do so, but also to really give them, just like St. Basil, who and St. John of Kronstadt, and all these people who the church was a center of this community, but they also had things that helped heal and touch people in the community so that they can see Christ. What you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. So, we could preach Christ all we want, essentially, but if I'm hungry, it's hard to hear a little bit what you're saying. And so it was a blessing to see that this summer, him and his wife lead that charge with many other leaders in the community. And so it was really a blessing. I got to, stand in with the people. And if I can say this, I think the other part was, as a young Black man myself, and a priest of the Orthodox Church, a lot of people in these communities haven't seen many priests, or they haven't seen many people of color that wear these funny robes and these crosses, and they said, "Wait a minute." So he grew up with that same background we did, but he's Orthodox. What is this you're talking about? We haven't seen, so-called you around. What are you? And so Father Paul and his team has been answering that call, and it was a blessing to be there and just to get some of the questions and the things that I grew up with and be able to answer, because it's what I grew up with. It's not even though of course I'm Orthodox Christian, but the cultural, the communal things that are familiar to me and us, I was able to answer them in a way that maybe some else wouldn't be. So yeah, it was a blessing.
Thank you so much for those words, Father Micah, and we send our love to Father Paul Abernathy and the Neighborhood Resilience Project. Father, this is now your final semester at St. Tikhon's. I know that you've always been a young man filled with zeal and an interest and concern for missions. What are your prayerful plans starting this summer at your new parish assignment, whenever you receive it? What are the things that you would like to accomplish for the rest of the year in your vocation? And how could our viewers support you in those efforts?
Yeah, well, just as a general, this applies to me and other young men going into the field. We need your prayers. One, we need your support. Some young men or men in general. Not that everybody's, some people are coming to seminary 50, 60. It really depends. But I think one thing is the encouragement. Some priests will speak with the men that they know that are faithful in the church and say, I think you should consider seminary, or hey, have you ever thought of seminary? These types of things need to happen, of course, more and more. But third, which is, I hate to say it, but financially, there is a burden in that sense of where, as opposed to maybe a Protestant seminary where you're maybe it's a four-year program and you're doing Bible, the Old Testament, or looking at the New Testament in context, or all these things. The Orthodox tradition has all those things, the tradition of the fathers that you have to really learn and keep in your heart. And then also the liturgical worship that you have to learn. So there's a lot of pieces where you're asked a lot through these years. And so it makes it a little bit harder to fund or support yourself. So prayerfully, if I could just be honest with you and say, I think there is that financial need and as well. Just to answer the second part of your question, or excuse me, the first part of your question about what is the goals I have coming up here in the future. Let's be honest, Father Sam, I think throughout all your interviews, we've had a lot of different people come on, but there's definitely a big need still. When we think about all the major cities across the country, whether they're inner cities or not, these places with a lot of diverse pockets of people, there is a need for people to be the arm and leg of the church in these communities. So, for example, there's a lot of when you walk out into the market or the street or the grocery store and they see you in your robe, and you can even have your cross on sometimes. They'll say "Assalamu alaikum, brother," and you're like, "Oh man." I wish you peace as well, but you see this cross, man.
Right.
So. And I say that is also a call back to us saying they haven't seen us enough. Mm-hmm. And so in that regard, we have to just be faithful, also be diligent, not just to go anywhere when we're, okay, where would you like to be placed? Or if you're talking to your bishop, or, let us be forthright and say, well, these communities haven't seen the Orthodox Christian. This community hasn't had that type of witness, even though the Black church and community have stayed the test of time, in America, and done what they can. I think we also have to be cognizant of being present. Yeah, and that's just the truth of it. I think another thing is that one of my plans is to not just be present, of course, but to be active. I think there's sometimes as Christians or Orthodox Church in general, we're not present. I was just in the barber shop, just not too long ago, and this Puerto Rican brother is cutting my hair. He's a Pentecostal Christian, and he's talking about fasting. So just like the Ethiopian eunuch to Philip, well, do you know what you're speaking of? I'm an Orthodox priest in this barber chair or in the community, and I'm talking to him, and we're able to have an interaction about the early church and what they believed and all these things. So obviously being present, but also being active. I think more specifically, you and I, Father, talked about urban missions. I think there's a second piece of that where you have the urban revitalization, where these churches have been in the communities, whether of whatever ethnic background they've been, are now in communities that are maybe Black or Latino or all sorts of different, diverse backgrounds. And we have to be able to take the faith and translate the faith to those and those people.
Father Micah, we recently lost the prophetic voice of this generation concerning urban missions, Father Moses Berry, who has been an incredible spiritual father and guide to me. Many times you and I have sat down and spoke about the importance of having Black clergy come together regardless of our differences in jurisdiction. Moving forward, I strongly believe that there is a need for Black clergy among the various jurisdictions here in the United States to work together as a collective for the needs of furthering urban missions. Where do you see yourself as a newly ordained priest in that effort, and what would you like to see in the near future?
Of course, memory eternal to Father Moses Berry, who was just a wonderful man. He was just so fatherly in his way, and he had lived a lot of life that you were able to really glean from. He wasn't talking out of quoting or reading; he lived it, and so he really was that witness that gave many of us the spark. Of course, he helped bring along the St. Moses the Black Fellowship, which is a conference that meets yearly. He helped speak on the phone with many Orthodox Christians across the country who were asking about the faith, and some of his testimonies online were literally the way, or the gateway, if you will, that brought many into the faith. And I've heard it many times where people said, after I saw his video, after I saw him speak or whatever, I knew that it was okay for me to be in the faith. And so let that not be our only way, but that it has been the way for many to say it's okay to be Orthodox Christian and a Black American or Black Afro-Latino, or I can be, I don't have to be of this ethnic background or this jurisdiction or whatever it is to be Orthodox Christian. It's okay. So by his image and just being present, many felt okay. Many felt like by his witness, it's all right to be an Orthodox Christian. So in that extension of that, there is a need for many who are from these backgrounds to then now lead the same charge, to bringing all people into, be the way, maybe be the catalyst that brings them into the faith. Not only just because of skin color or anything like that, but really a cultural understanding. As I just mentioned, there's many people who maybe come from Pentecostalese, Black Baptist backgrounds who, in which I'm one of myself, who they speak a certain language, if you will. They're talking a certain way. And so being able to talk to them in the way that they know, to translate, if you will, that the church, the beauty of the church to people who may have never heard about it. And this is not new in our tradition, right? We see Mark the apostle who wrote the Gospel of Mark is from Africa. We see at least 5 to 10 of the 70. Obviously, Saint Simon of Cyrene, Rufus. Father, jump in there and add more, where many of these men went back to where they were from. Matthew even went to Ethiopia. All these people, they knew where they were going. They knew about the culture. They knew the people. And even in the Orthodox tradition of people who learned about it, they waited a while. Obviously, we have the witness in Alaska where some of them waited 10 years to proselytize anyone. They learned the language. They set in and commune with the people for 10 years. So there is even room for people who may come from a different background, but are willing to be humble and learn and listen, and so that they can translate the knowledge they have with the cultural understanding and the background of another people. So that is really why it is very important. And I think we need to continue to encourage these throughout the years. And obviously, talking with you, Father Sam, you've been one of those people who have been the icon, the image of what a priest could be. And so by that encouragement, you helped me see some direction and vision. And so we have to continue this tradition. We have to continue from Father Moses to the Father Paul Abernathy, to the Father Samuel Davis's, to the, right, even on down to the next group that's coming out. There's a couple of young Black seminarians that are coming out, and hopefully and prayerfully they can also help translate this same gospel, this same truth of the church to people of all descent and who come to them. But of course, they know more intimately their tradition growing up. They know this, so they know how to speak the same language that's already there. So, and in that same answer to your question, I think with the tradition of being passed down and knowing the culture and the language, it is a joint effort that's needed because we are one body. We are the true church and the true faith where we don't have divisions in the Orthodox Church. And so all people who have that heart of urban missions and bringing all people to the faith, the clergy, we have a call that we have to work together in this missional effort. We are obviously the Father Raphael Morgan, who the icon sits next to you, Father. It's been over 100 years since his witness of meeting with in Moscow, and also the ecumenical patriarch who was told to go back and evangelize his people, not because they just looked the same, but because he knew the culture, he knew the background, he knew their experience. And so as the Orthodox and African-American clergy in general, and more specifically, we have to be one in this effort. We have to be, we don't have time to waste where we can play jurisdictional games or anything like that. There are people who are across this country who are hurting and looking for the true faith. And, sometimes a lot of the places I go into, I'm the first Orthodox Christian, or let alone Orthodox priest they've talked to in these communities. We have to come together. We have to strengthen these people, train them up in the faith so that they shall not depart from it. And that this same witness that we've been given throughout the ages, we can then look back and say that by our unity, by our working together, all people of tribes, tongues, and nations shall come into the church. And so we don't have time to be divided. We have to be one so that they know that our Father in heaven, right, is one, like with their Son. So we must be this witness together. And the resources and the time that we have now is of the essence. Many different young Black Americans and Black, Latinos and even Hispanics, inner cities across the country are looking to other faiths and groups because they seem unified. Mm-hmm. Now, on the surface, they seem have a unity, but their maybe theology is lacking, and their what they believe is empty. And so if we can be the same image and really give them something, not just a worship of culture, worship of background, not just worship of, identity, all these things, if we can truly come together and be that witness in unison, then they can also say, well, there's another group that's unified, and these priests, these bishops, these clergy who look like me, have the same background as me. They also have something to say, and it seems like it has merit. It seems like it has fruit because of their unity. Sometimes that's a big question in Christianity. So I pray that comes to fruition in due season.
By your prayers, Father. Thank you once again for joining us, Father Micah. I would like our viewers and benefactors to please remember that, yes, Father Micah Breland is a seminarian with a family. So if you go take a look at his social media, he has a GoFundMe that is actually present now for the much needed support to close out not only the semester, but his future this summer and fall. So please do not hesitate to send Father Micah your support, whether that be financial or through your prayers. Once again, thank you for joining us at the Black American Experience in the Orthodox Church. Until we meet you again, God bless and keep you all. Thank you for being with us.